ready when you are.
Hey guys, I may have go away heat, but these guys have true heel heat. So you better listen to the podcast or else I'm gonna kick you in your fucking cock and balls.
I'll get it.
Hey everybody, it's Tony Schiavone of All Elite Wrestling, and this is True Hill Heat, and I said it right, you motherfuckers.
Yo, what up? You know what it is. It's your boy AJ Francis reporting to you live from New York City, the birthplace of hip-hop. And I'm telling you that I'm only tuned in with True Heel Heat Wrestling. Holla at me.
Hello, hello, hello. It is me, your True Hill Phenom, SP3. We are live on the True Hill Heat Sports and Entertainment YouTube channel for our X-Men 97 Episode 6 review. I am joined by my esteemed council of the board of directors of the Charles Xavier School of the Gifted. First up, we have the number one rocator. She is back after a 1-week hiatus. Wendy is here.
Hi. Hi, everybody. Hi, True Hill Heat fam and chat. Hello, my brothers. How everybody doing today?
Doing well, doing well. I hope that you recovered. I know you had to do something, but I also know that you couldn't emotionally be a part of last week's review because it was quite the emotional episode 5.
Oh yeah, it was. So basically, realistically, I went. It was my great nephew's birthday. He had turned 2, so he was having a Toy Story birthday party. So I had to be there. And yeah, I was kind of like disappointed that I wasn't on it because I had a lot to say, especially for that last episode. But my lovely half, he said it well.
He filled in very well, and he did give us your reaction to the final part of the episode with the what the fuck, what the fuck, what the fuck.
Well, there was more to it, but he summed it all. Basically.
Very well, very well. And we are joined by the number one fan of Gambit. He is running the Gambit Foundation now that he has passed away and no longer a part of our opening sequence as well. He is Ness. How are you doing, Ness?
I'm doing fine. It's funny enough that you did say that he's not a part of the opening sequence now, because he's been replaced by another X-Men favorite of mine in the opening. With
I did peep that too. I was like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah. I'm like, oh damn, it's a game about. I'm like, hey, I love Nightcrawler. So a soul for a soul, it happens, But we got a lot to discuss here. Not as much as last week, but definitely some very important plot points this week.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And we appreciate y'all who's been watching our X-Men 97 reviews over here on the Sports and Entertainment channel. We've been having a lot of fun on Sundays reviewing the show, and we've been appreciating all the great feedback with your comments, with your likes, with your views. I think the last review we did is nearly at 400 views. Our first one is at nearly 500. Our second one is at like 300 plus. So you've been really enjoying it. We appreciate that. So drop the thumbs up on this video, share it with your friends, subscribe if you are new to the True Hill Heat Sports and Entertainment channel. And most of all, if you're watching us on YouTube, if you're watching us on Facebook, if you're watching us on Twitter, sound off in the live chat. We love to interact with all of you, hear your thoughts of X-Men 97. Where do you think things is going to go next? We have a lot of fun talking about that, and we're going to talk about that now that Wendy is back with us to talk about who she thinks sent the Sentinel, who she thinks is behind it, even though our prologue of this episode gave us an answer, but I don't know if it was the full answer. But sound off in the live chat like our good brother, Power Driver Finisher, who's here with us. He says, just rewatch, and gotta say the voice acting is pretty good. I think he said good. Yeah, he said good. He wrote food, but good. He's thinking about food. I'm thinking about food too. I'm trying to get through this. But we also got Power Driver Finisher, who says, like parts where there's emotion, the voices are great, especially Storm. Storm was, man, the Storm voice acting. This is probably some of the best voice acting I've ever heard in a cartoon, especially when it comes to Storm.
Agreed.
I've been very much enjoying it, and especially in like episode 5 as well. But let's get into episode 6, which we had. I expected this to be the switch up, and I warned Ness and Josh last week. I was like, we're not going to get a follow up to this until 2 weeks from now, because next week is the follow up of the Storm episode. Now, I will say, before we get into the bit by bit, and I want to get your kind of overall view of this episode, I will say they should have just combined part 1 and part 2, honestly. Like, I don't understand why they didn't do that. Like this, it felt like incomplete. I was like, that first part, if you add it to this episode and give us less Charles parts, I would have took like all the Charles bits in this episode towards the end. Like you do the first half, do a full life death story, and then do the second part with Charles. We catch up with Charles. I would have enjoyed that more. But Wendy, what's your overall thoughts on this episode 6?
Honestly, my first reaction was just like, well, okay, in regards to the first part, not the Storm part, but more like the Charles, it was more like I felt very dumbfounded, because I'm like, wait, like I was lost at first. I'm like, wait a minute, isn't this man dead? And then I felt bamboozled, because I'm like, what the hell? Like watching that whole part. And then with the whole Storm, I was so like, my reaction was like, I was happy because she finally got her powers back. Like, yes, queen. And her new look. Well, not her new look, but like her, transformation. I'm like, yes, queen. I loved it. I was so happy that, because seeing the whole part where she lost, like, Executioner like took her powers away, and how there's no, like, we don't know for sure when she's ever getting back. It was very, it was very what's to say, like it was very emotional, because it's like she's as a mutant, like she's strong. She's very strong, very powerful, and to take that away from her, it's like taking that other part of who she is, and seeing the fact that she got that back, it's like, okay, I'm happy for her. But yeah, dumbfounded and happy.
Dumbfounded and happy is your way to describe episode 6. What about you, Ness? What did you think about Life Death Part 2 here?
I enjoyed it all. I agree. I wish they would have at least kept the Life Death Part 1 part. I really wish they would have put them together as one whole episode. I don't see why they needed to, split them up or whatever. But the way that the Xavier part of the episode would have ended, I would have like you just brought that up. I would have liked how that would have been like the second part. If they would have did Life Death Part 2 first, then did Xavier's situation after. That would have been a great cliffhanger to go on. Because
Yeah.
then like it was Xavier's part first, then it's like Life Death Part 2. And I'm still like, well, I can't fully focus on Life Death Part 2 because I'm worried about what's going on with Xavier. Now, if all that would have happened, then everything else with Xavier would have happened. I could have been like, oh man, I can't wait for next week. The whole time I'm just like, oh well, you could have put this somewhere else, rearranged it or something else. But overall, I enjoyed it. I like both stories. Not as much emotion as last week, but definitely some emotion there and a little bit of introductions of other characters and stuff like that. It was a lot going on, but not a lot going on.
Yeah. I feel like the Xavier part was us just like it was giving us a lot of information at once, especially if you didn't watch the animated series. I can understand Wendy kind of being dumbfounded by it, but that's why I did the everything you need to know before X-Men 97, where I explained to y'all Xavier was never dead. He got sent to another planet. I knew that much. I was like, when is he gonna show up? And then he showed up here, so I was happy to see him, but it was a little bit like, okay, why are we showing this first in Life Death when the Life Death story is about Storm?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I was like, you could have combined part one, and part one was only like 8 minutes of episode 4. It wasn't like it was a long portion of the story. It was like the first 8 minutes of the story. You couldn't put that in this episode? Come on.
Yeah.
Come on, it's on Disney Plus. Ain't trying to fit into a time range on TV. Come on, man. Gotta be better than that. We got Power Driver Finisher who says, yeah, it could have been one episode, especially because they filled in the Xavier stuff. Yeah, like the Xavier stuff, they put it. I don't know why they structured this. This was one where I don't like the structure of the episode. I would have started directly with the Storm stuff, and then you can throw in, like I said, I would have done it where you combine part 1 and part 2 and then do all the Xavier stuff at the end. And it would have been nice to kind of go off with how that ended. That story ended great with him getting the vision of what happened in Genosha. That was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a better way. X-Men 97, episode 6, Life Death Part 2 opens with an epic space battle pitting the Shi'ar against the Kree Empire. If the Kree Empire sounds familiar to you, we have heard that before in the MCU. The Kree has been used in the Guardians of the Galaxy as well as Captain Marvel. This sequence features an appearance from none other than Ronan the Accuser, who was the villain of Guardians of the Galaxy Part 1. He and his soldiers are ultimately defeated by the Imperial Guard, a classic X-Men team that includes the hero Gladiator. With them is Deathbird, who is dismayed to hear that her sister, Empress Leandra, it has a big announcement, and she makes a big announcement talking about how their people saved a very valuable human, and now he is all well and good, and she's gonna marry them. And Deathbird is none too happy to hear her sister is gonna wed to Terran, another phrase that we only heard in the MCU before this, which was what everybody would call Star-Lord in Guardians of the Galaxy, that he's Terran. Away from the action, Xavier and Leandra discuss their future together, and Xavier not so subliminally hits that he wants to return to Earth. I love that Leandra called him out on his bullshit and says that my emperor needs to hide his manipulations a little bit better. However, Leandra is not convinced that this is the best idea. She makes one of the harshest analogies I think I've ever heard, where she tells Charles that families can be like black holes of emotion and you don't want to get lost in them.
Yeah.
I was like, whoever wrote this never wants to go back home to their hometown. I'm pretty sure. The way they describe family, I mean, I'm just saying, just me. I don't know. Maybe it's me.
And her
Meanwhile,
relationship with Deathbird, as you can see.
and a relationship with her brother. That's how she became the empress. She had to
Yeah.
get rid of her brother because her brother wanted the I think it was like the time crystal, and that was a part of the whole Phoenix saga. So yeah, they have a pretty fucked up family. But I mean, in actuality, so does Charles because his brother is Juggernaut. So yeah. And his kid is David, who is like one of the most powerful mutants. So yeah. Yeah, Charles has family issues of his own, so they understand each other. But Wendy, what did you think about this opening sequence after you got over your dumbfoundness that Charles Xavier is alive? What do you
Yeah.
think about him and Leandra planning to wed in her home country? I mean, her home planet.
So watching it, like I said, I was dumbfounded. I was like, wait, this man's alive? Like, so he just lied to his kid? Like what? So seeing that, okay, so at first, like seeing that whole, first of all, the visuals was, once again, they always hit with the visuals. And seeing Ronan, I was like, oh, this character, oh wow. And then just seeing the fact that like they Charles has fallen in love with the Empress. I was just like, oh, while his X-Men are fighting and he's just over here. It's just, you know,
Blissfully unaware.
yeah, unaware and living his life, with his girl and stuff like that. That was really cute. And I like the fact, like, even though, like, she really loves him, like, she's still calling him out on his shit. Like, okay, like I already know what you're trying to do. You're trying to, like, I'm not stupid. So I like how, like, she, even though she loves him, like, she still calls him out, which is great. And seeing, like, her sister, like, the way she was just, like, speaking, it just, I don't know. She comes out like very sarcastic, like, oh, she's really happy, like, like, oh, anything for my, when the person came to like, tell her the news, like, hey, we have a message from your sister. She's like,
Like
oh,
anything for my
yeah,
sister.
anything for my sister, of course. I'm like, girl, you sarcastic. Like, there's something there, some jealousy, some type of resentment, something there. Like, because you don't really mean this stuff. But that whole first scene was great. I love it.
Yeah. I love when they give us the action sequences. It always looks stunning with the
Yeah.
animation that they do. Ness, what did you think about the opening sequence with the space battle and seeing Ronan and then the announcement of Charles and Leandra?
I liked it, enjoyed it. I didn't think this episode was going to have too much action in it to begin with because of everything that happened last week. Figure it would be a cool down episode. And it was also nice to see other entities of the Marvel universe with Deathbird and Gladiator, Ronin. So it's like it's not just the X-Men, it's Marvel, all and the Marvel universe too. So that was actually a nice added touch to it.
I was gonna ask you because I know you are a big Marvel fan. You said that when we started these reviews. What do you think about this? Is now back to back weeks. We've had entities that have only been in the MCU appearing over here. And, we long been told by the creators in interviews that this was going to be in a separate world from the MCU. But last week, we see the Watcher in the sky as an Easter egg. Then this week, we get Ronin and a lot of terminology that bases back to, the MCU. Do you think that this is kind of going to be a backdoor pilot into the X-Men live action in the MCU?
I honestly, I hope so. That's something that I've wanted for quite some time. Um, Only having to deal with the Fox movies and stuff like that, as that's what we get. They were okay by default. Not all of them. Not that it was just something that we tolerated because we didn't get them in the MCU. So I'm hoping that like at this point now that they're dropping these Easter eggs or adding these people to the animated series because they plan on adding them to the MCU in the future. I just hope that the casting's right, the writing is right. Please don't make the same mistakes that Fox did, Marvel, Disney, whoever the hell is going to be behind this. Don't do what Fox did. Don't fuck it up.
I think that the Fox movies in total, I think there was about 13 of them. And I now have seen all of them. I actually recently watched New Mutants, but I have to rewatch that because kind of tuned it out. It was very dull and dark-ish. But out of the 13, I would say there's 3 great ones, there's 4 good ones, and the rest are trash. Pretty much. That's how it
That
works out.
sounds
So,
reasonable. That sounds reasonable.
yeah. For
Yeah.
anyone who wants to know, the 3 great ones are Days of Future Past, X2, Logan. That's it. Those are the 3 great X-Men Fox movies. The good ones are both Deadpool movies. The second Wolverine movie when he's in Japan, because that shit kicks. You watch it a second time? I watched it the first time, I was like, all right, this is different. I watched it a second time and I understood everything. I was like, oh, this shit is kick ass. This shit is all action. Just the last part kind of sucks with the whole big kind of metal emperor and shit. That was stupid. And then First Class is the other good one. First Class is really good. Those are the 4 good ones. The rest of them are trash. Apocalypse trash. Phoenix, Dark Phoenix trash. Last Stand trash. There's 5 good ones because the first X-Men movie is good. My bad. I almost forgot that. But yeah. But all the rest of them are trash, yeah.
I fell asleep on Apocalypse, to be honest. When I
Yo,
saw that movie-
Apocalypse is dull as fuck. Yo, they didn't get and why is Magneto in it? What? First of all, why is Magneto in it when he doesn't need to be in it? And why is Magneto in it and the best part of it when he doesn't need to be in it? Crazy. It's crazy.
I fell asleep on that one. It's so funny because I was watching it and then I don't know what happened. I fell asleep. That's so crazy. But
Hard driver finisher is because you just described like kind of what I was like the first time watching it. It was kind of like, okay, it was like a lot going on here. I couldn't appreciate it. Watch it again now with new fresh eyes, and after watching more X-Men stuff, I guarantee you will appreciate it more.
yeah. I mean, to add on to I agree with what Ness was saying. Like, if hopefully it's possible that this could be to introduce the X-Men into the MCU. But if they really gonna do it, not to do the past mistakes of other people that have done X-Men movies, if they're gonna do it, make sure you get the right directors, the right writers, the actors that will be perfect for characters and have it do it right. If they're really gonna decide to do that, they have to make sure they do it right, correctly.
I think it was the other day I was watching a podcast and they said the one thing that I've been trying to get my head around is if they do these new X-Men, they're gonna have to find someone to be the new Wolverine as well, because you can't recast every single character and keep Hugh Jackman. You kind of have to recast them and probably do a younger version of Wolverine. I think. And I heard someone suggest this person, and I was like, yeah, that's actually it. That's actually it. Jeremy Allen White. I don't know if y'all know him, but he is the lead actor on The Bear. He was in the Von Erichs movie. He played Texas Tornado in the Von Erichs movie. He was Lip Gallagher on Shameless. He's short. He's all muscled up now after Iron Claw. He can grow out the sideburns. I think he would be amazing as the new Wolverine.
I could see that.
Yeah. That's all I ever wanted. Like Hugh Jackman, he's Wolverine as of right now. But I always wanted the comic accurate short Wolverine, because that's how he's supposed to be in the comics. But hopefully going forward, that's something they keep in mind, because Hugh Jackman
and Jeremy Allen White is short as hell. He's like my height. I think I can see eye to eye on him. I'm short as hell too. So yeah, Jeremy Allen White. That's the Wolverine look. You gotta be short and muscle. and with muscles. There you go.
I could see that. I could see that, like not get the same people, but like at least get new people that can bring life, like fresh life into these characters. Like if y'all really gonna do it right, like, don't get the same thing. Just bring some, like, do something different, you know.
Yeah, I agree with you there. We got Tyrone Kid who says, I wish they didn't switch Rogue with Jubilee. He says the first X-Men is May. No, it's May if you look at it with 2024 eyes. Yeah, I rewatched it, but I did not rewatch it with like thinking about superhero movies of nowadays or the last couple of years. I watched it as a viewpoint of superhero movies are not a common thing in 2000, and it was actually revolutionary and and actually influenced a lot of the superhero movies that we do enjoy today. But I will say I do not like how they have basically Rogue be the main character for like the first act, and then it completely changes to Wolverine the rest of the movie. And then they never make Rogue an important character ever again. They I've said it a million times. Those Fox movies were character assassination to so many of the X-Men, and Rogue may have been the biggest victim because he was supposed to be a big part of Days of Future Past, and they completely cut her from the movie, the theatrical cut.
Very fucking ridiculous. And she was so weak too. She was like one of the strongest ones. She was just like a damsel in distress. I hated that shit.
Me too. Me too. It probably is. Yeah, it probably is the worst because, like, at least Scott and Storm were a part of the team. Like, Rogue was barely part of the team until the third movie, and then she decides to get the cure.
I think they just chose the wrong person. I think they chose the wrong person to play her. Like, granted, like I like Anna Paquin because she was, for all you True Blood fans, like Suki Stackhouse, like she was right there. But like I don't think she was fit to play Rogue for the movie. Like I feel like they should have somebody else.
Should have got someone with a Southern accent.
Right, agreed. Like I love you, Suki. Like I love you, Anna Paquin. Like you were great as Suki Stackhouse, but I feel like they should have found. I feel like they should have somebody else that can fit that character and that can able to do a Southern accent.
Meanwhile, we go back to Earth, and on Earth, Storm is tending to Forge's injury caused by the Adversary, which she identifies as some type of demonic infection. The Adversary gives her no peace, though. He's talking a whole bunch of shit while she's trying to tend to Forge. It tries to break her spirit, telling her to leave Forge to die after his invention caused her to lose her powers. It's a nice touch. Like I said on the first part, I love the touch that it's the same voice, that is Alice Sealy Smith doing the voice of the Adversary as well as the voice of Storm, because it really is kind of like showing that it's her own personal demon that is going after her. The Adversary is making the demon force. It gives like this slight implication that it's drawing strength from her own kind of like resentment and fear. Then we go. The Storm has a vision of being trapped in a coffin before Forge starts to use his magic, which once again another MCU reference in this episode is straight Doctor Strange magic. It's straight the Kamadaji or whatever they're called. It's very reminiscent. All when he's saying the spell, we see the spell going at the person and stuff. He traps the adversaries at least temporarily. Forge informs Storm that there is some type of cactus called the Midnight Kala, which can be used to heal him. The two decide to head out together in search of it. Basically Storm tells him to stay here because he's too weak, but Forge says that he doesn't want to die alone. So we go like a lovebird kind of like cutaway, and they're on a horse, and Storm is bringing them over to the cactus. But then we go back to the Shi'ar. But before we do that, what did you think about this first part of the Storm and Forge here? Start with Ness this time. What do you think about them having to fight off the Adversary here?
So just like you described it, I like the fact that it basically is Storm's own personal conflictions that she's dealing with. For so long, she had to deal with being a mutant, deal with the trials and tribulations that come with that, the disrespect that comes with that from the people that she's set out to basically save their lives, and they don't appreciate it, which is like basically goes back to Scott having that interview the week prior saying, I got to do all this shit for you motherfuckers, and y'all don't even appreciate this shit, so she's dealing with it, and she wanted to be human for so long, and like now all that has manifested in itself into the adversary, and now she's dealing with having being what she got what she wanted pretty much, but at the cost of this is not the way that she wanted it to happen, and now that she has no way to really protect herself or the others around her as a forge that she loves, because she can't do nothing against the adversary. So it's actually a nice little like coming of age story, so to speak, where it's like, oh, maybe this isn't what I really wanted, and now I have to get my powers back. Like I can't live like this. So once again, this series shows that superheroes are human, and just because they have superpowers, they can fly, they can control the weather, whatever the case may be, at the end of the day, they have emotions like normal people without powers. Just because you got superpowers, you really 9 times out of 10 you deal with super emotions on top of that. So I really like how they tie that into her character.
And as a black person, I just want to say my favorite line of the sequence with the adversary and Storm is when she said, "Oh, you want to go back to your monotone family?" Basically saying that all the X-Men are white except for her.
Yeah.
That was great. And then we saw the demon X-Men with the red eyes and the teeth coming out of the coffin. That was great stuff. Wendy, what did you think about this? This is more of like the horror that we kind of saw with Madeline Pryor and the Goblin Queen kind of coming out here with the adversary. What did you think?
I thought it was so seeing that scene. To me, I looked at that. I was like, wow, like that's like relating to like human. Like this is what every human goes through. Like every person, they go through their own fears and their own issues, and and there's always like that little voice like in your mind literally telling you like, oh, like you're not enough, you're gonna fail and stuff like that. So seeing that, it's like, okay, once again they're bringing that humanity into the animated show, and it's like it's relatable, because there is times where when something new happens in a person's life, they're not sure if they can accomplish that, whether it's schoolwork, love, or whatever. And then you always have that person in you that's telling like, you're gonna fail, you're horrible, you're that. And then it takes like a type of strength to like overcome that and overcome that fear and know that you're gonna do it. So seeing the 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 emotion and seeing what Storm is going through, and just seeing how like slowly crouching down, and as it's like she's getting it's like she's digging herself into a hole, while the adversary is just like literally like telling her like, oh, you gotta go back to that family, like I thought you wanted to be a human, like isn't this what you wanted? But like isn't like you got your wish granted, like you're a human, like oh it's not happy rainbows as you thought it would be, right? Like so it's so great storytelling. It's so great how like that whole scene came together. I enjoyed it, and it honestly to me, just seeing that, it's like, wow, like I look at that and I'm like, okay, like everybody has a person that everybody has that negative side of yourself that's telling you you're a failure, you're this, that, you know? So it's so relatable. I love the storytelling. I love the writing. Whoever did the scene and the voice, top notch. You're great.
And I love the fact that, we also had Forge kind of explaining to her that he's the one that drew the adversary, and it was out of his own kind of resentment and fear, and he basically made, and he's Forge, so anything he creates, he can make into a real thing, and that's what happened with the Adversary. It is great storytelling and writing from how they worked everything out here. Then we go back to the Shi'ar over in the Shi'ar planet. Deathbird poses a challenge in order to allow the wedding of Leandra and Charles. We get them coming up to meet with the whole little council here, and we had Charles kind of make a quip to Leandra, saying that how they introduce him. He was like, "It makes it sound like I'm your pet," which is not the worst idea I've ever heard. I was like, this show is so horny. They're so horny. Leandra tells him, "Oh, you'll bark later, my dear." I was like, "Oh my god, they're kinky." These kinky people. Charles must purge all of his memories of Earth in order to prove his loyalty to the Shi'ar Empire. I love Charles trying to call out Deathbird, saying, "Oh, I appreciate you said the quiet part out loud." and then she quit back at him when he came back at her, kind of trying to give a human kind of perspective on the situation, because the Shi'ar don't believe in human free will, basically. Xavier is hesitant to do so and reveals his apprehension in a conversation with Gladiator, as he makes a reference to, I think, a famous artist, and Gladiator just says, are you talking about a Terran? I love it. It's like, it sounds so racist. It's so great. Here, Charles also mentions how Gladiator in his idealism reminds him of Magneto, and Gladiator tells him that idealism is a form of insanity. It's a bitter note of dramatic irony that Xavier speaks of his friend as if he is still alive and not yet aware of what went down in Genosha. So that's fun. Xavier knows that he must purge his memories, even if he does not want to, as otherwise Deathbird could take the Shi'ar throne from Leandra and cause even more problems. They did talk about on their garden walk how Leandra wants basically Charles to be the king and be the emperor, so when they take over the Kree Empire, he could teach those people, the Shi'ar way. And Charles is kind of gave her a look, because that's not how teaching works. It's like you can't just assimilate people into your way of thinking. That's not real education. But what did you think about this whole challenge made by Deathbird for Charles to erase all of his thoughts of Earth, including his X-Men? Ness, what did you think about this part of the Shi'ar part of the episode?
It's funny enough that the last thing you just mentioned was they want to take over another with the Kree. They want to take over their empire and to teach them their ways. Now, what we're all used to growing up in American history, or even just history around the world, that's literally how empires came to be. There's war, whoever loses gets taken over, they get all their history for the most part eradicated, and whoever's the victor, they're the ones that are able to tell the story. And for the most part, in this part of the story, the Shi'ar are the ones who have been knocking down empires, galaxies, wherever the case may be, and then teaching them their ways. So I like how Charles touched on the fact that it shouldn't be like that. That's not the right way to go about it, but that's all they know. So that was like the main basis of Deathbird wanting him to get his memory erased and for him to pledge his allegiance to the Shi'ar, even though they could have worked together, because flat out they're racist. They're fucking racist.
Yes.
Deathbird called the Earth the
Milky Way ghetto. Milky Way ghetto. I never thought I would hear Charles Xavier described as someone from the ghetto.
Ghetto, yes. I'm not gonna lie. I heard that shit.
That man's from Westchester, New York.
the That's very, if you guys aren't familiar, that's very much upstate. It's not the NYC that you know, like it's not the Bronx, it's not Brooklyn, it's not Harlem, Manhattan. There's none of that. It's upstate. The nice part. The nice part.
With a great comment, he said, "I cried." Professor Xavier Della Ghetto.
Hilarious.
That was crazy, man. When I heard her say that, I said, "Wow, even aliens can be racist too." The ghetto, really? And he's from a nice part of New York. Like, that's crazy. But again, which that is, it was entertaining, but it brings back to the fact that people that don't know or aren't familiar with something really are afraid of it, and it intimidates them to the point they're either scared or they're very, very angry, and then they just lash out, just like Deathbird did for the majority of this episode. So even though she's an alien, or the whole race of aliens, they all felt the same way. They just weren't as, dramatic about it as she was. But it just shows that anybody can have these emotions and they can put them in an uncomfortable position when they don't understand things. Because in my opinion, I don't see what the issue is working together. You have one incredibly large and powerful empire of the Shi'ar, and then you have an extremely dangerous and powerful psychic in Charles Xavier with his X-Men. That could have been a dream team together. Yeah. But for whatever reason, the Shi'ar, Deathbird, they're all like, no, we don't fuck with them. They're humans. They're below us, even though they're just as powerful. And they mentioned just how powerful that he is, or Leandra did. So that's why they wanted to make her be the one to erase all his memories and things of that nature. But yeah, I'm still hung up on the Milky Way ghetto. That shit was crazy.
Milky Way ghetto might be one of my favorite lines said in this in X-Men 97 so far. Wendy, what did you think about Deathbird and Charles going back and forth and the challenge proposed to Charles?
Of course she's gonna, you know what? Okay, I'll say this. I'll say, like, it was giving very,
I think I know what you're gonna say. I think I know what you're gonna say. I think I know what you're gonna say.
What?
Black Panther vibes? That's what I got.
No, I wasn't gonna say that. I was gonna say, like, it was giving me very, like, cult vibes. Like, you know how when you go into a cult and they have this way, like, this is their way of like learning, this is way of teaching, this is their way of life, this is how they run things, so it's like when you have somebody from the outside come in and wanting to join a cult, they're like, all right, you're very devoted to this, okay, like, this is how you do it. So, like, seeing that whole scene, like, okay, like, if you really want to marry my sister and you're very devoted, then I'm gonna need I want you to erase your memory and get everything that you learned from your life, and I want my sister to be the one to do it, to erase it. So it's like, so basically it was giving me very cult-like vibes. And that whole scene, like, that part when she said Milky Way ghetto, I was like, what? Milky Way ghetto? Like, first of all, Charles Xavier, he ain't from Brooklyn. He's not from New York City. He's not from Brownsville, so he ain't ghetto. So he ain't from my neighborhood. So I don't know where that coming from. Not saying Brownsville is ghetto, but like,
I mean,
hey,
Steve Rogers is from y'all hood. That's it.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying we get a bad rep, but I'm just saying, like, are you sure you're talking about Earth? Like, do not put Earth as one whole, like, thing. There's different parts, but, like, not everything there is ghetto. But that was just a very funny scene, and just just seeing it, like I said, it's very cult-like. Like, it was giving me very cult. Like, you want to join this family, like, okay, do these things to show you're devoted to our group, our family, and this is how you're gonna do it. So seeing that was great. I like it.
Oh, we got in the chat Tyrone Kidd who said Charles and Bishop are going to be like the new Jay Uso and
Oh,
Cody Scrum. Do you feel him, sir? That's awesome.
oh gosh.
next next up we had Storm and Forge. They are now making their way through the cave where the Midnight Chala grows. Forge points out that it was once a weapons decoy during the Civil War, before revealing that Storm must go ahead by herself into a tight space in order to retrieve the medical ingredient. And of course, Storm has claustrophobia, so this is going to be quite the challenge for her, especially without her powers, but she would have to face her demons to do so. Meanwhile, Xavier and Leandra are set to begin the ritual in which he will purge all of his memories of Earth. But sensing his hesitation, Deathbird and her forces attack immediately. Oh, he hesitates. Get him! Like, it was like, yeah, I was
Didn't even give him a chance. Didn't give him like.
like, he coughed. He coughed. What are you doing? He coughed. She put a knife to his throat. He coughed. He's hesitating. We got Gladiator holding off Deathbird and her forces. Xavier, never one to want to resort to violence, uses his powers to pull everyone into a classroom setting on the astral plane. He was like, I almost forgot my biggest tool. And then he just warps everybody into his mind. I was like, yo, Charles, you're the man. You're the man for that. What did y'all think about this quick little sequence with Charles deciding to bring everyone to the astral plane and use his powerful mind in helping to convince the Shi'ar? And what do you think about the cave excursion for Storm and Forge before we get into the final sequence, how both stories end? Wendy?
Okay, so how are we starting? Okay, so let's start with. All right, I'm gonna start with the whole Storm thing. Okay, so her, like you said, like she has to go by herself and go through this like small, in space, and how she's claustrophobic. That's like, and has to face her fears. That's like what everybody goes through. Everybody has a phobia. Everyone is scared of something. For me personally, I'm scared of heights. I'm afraid of heights. So I can understand what she was going through there. Well, at least she overcomes it. I still haven't overcome my fear of heights, and I don't think I ever will. I don't know why, but just seeing that is very, I relate to it because it's not easy. It's easy to overcome your fears, and she's strong. So seeing that, I'm like, okay, I believe she can overcome it, So for that, so going towards the Xavier scene, girl, you couldn't wait at least a minute for him to choose, like for him to make a decision. Like, damn, like he coughed, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, come at him. Like, couldn't wait. Like, damn, you're so persistent. Dang, girl. Like,
He's like,
wait a minute.
they like some cops when a black person rob a store. They be like, oh, freeze!
Oh my gosh. Oh man, but yeah, and then what I like about Xavier is like, he's doing all this for the woman that he loves, and showing her like, hey, like I'm in this with you. And then I think for a second he forgot who he is. And then that scene where he sees everybody leaving, everyone's attacking each other. He's like, wait a minute, I forgot who the hell I am. I'm Xavier, like Charles Xavier. Like, I'm gonna use my power. Like, screw that. And then when he transported them to a classroom, I'm like, that was great. I was like, I was just like, oh man, Xavier, yes, with the classroom, you showed them, like, you better teach them some straight facts.
He's like, y'all must have forgot who the hell I was.
Yes. And the part about it, like going through that scene where he's like, raise your hand, like when they like talk in, and he's like, raise your hand. And then with Deathbird, like she just jumped up, and he's like, oh, like once
that
again,
is the demerit.
demerit. Yeah, and then he literally like threw the apple in her mouth, like, raise your hand next time. I'm like, wow, that brings up some memories, like, in class, like when you're in school, you're like, yeah, I remember that. Like, not fond memories, but I just thought it was a great scene. Charles, you is the man right there. Like, show them who you are. Like, show them who you really are.
Yeah, you could say he kind of gagged Deathbird there. So got out a little bit of his kinkiness before him and
Oh,
Leandra closed their
jeez.
bedroom door. I'll just go through the last part here before we hear from Ness. So inside the tight space in the cave, Storm is once again confronted by the Adversary, who is still trying to tempt her to remain human. But Storm finally refuses their temptation or their insults and their mockery. The demonic entity uses his powers to enclose the space around Storm, and Storm closes her eyes. But however, she finally says no and summons her inner strength and pushes back against and the adversary's antagonism by reaching inside her of herself and overcoming her fear. Storm regains her powers. Not only regaining her powers, she grows out her hair in another one of the X-Men 97 impressive animated sequences. Storm flies out her hair. She has the beam and the lightning now in the cave as she starts flying. Storm then flies through space, then back to Earth, whipping up winds. She freaking makes a cyclone out of the river or the ocean just to see her reflection in it. Went up lightning. It's one of the most like powerful moments, really showing off all of her powers as she regains her power, returns to who she was meant to be. Storm and Forge return to the cabin where the alloy, the midnight alloy, kind of quickly works to cure the demonic infection on Forge. Forge and Storm kind of seemingly are in a good place, as Storm says that it was a demon of her own kind, so she had to overcome her fears to regain her powers, and it was always in herself to do that. Forge even makes like a kind of a tease saying that maybe what do we do now? Do we go away to a far off island? But the story ends on a sad note as Forge turns on the TV, and as soon as they turn on the TV, it's the aftermath of the Genosha attack on the news. We see Trish, the news reporter who was interviewing the X-Men last week, with the added indignity that mutant refugees are being refused entry to a number of different countries. So we get a little bit of a follow-up of what's the aftermath of all that. All the mutants that did survive the Genoshan attack are now being stuck in a freaking war zone, basically. Back on the astral plane, though, we get Charles Xavier compares the Shi'ar's imperial tendencies to those found on Earth. He notes that the Shi'ar cut down young civilizations before they can grow, cutting them at the knees, only to then offer them peace. Before he can truly impart his wisdom, though, the lesson, he keeps getting like people kind of answering him or giving him different type of situations, and he just starts throwing out bars on them, throwing out all of his wisdom, saying that we are all children of stardust and atoms, and that we all need to come together, and that the Earth is very, very old, but we are very, very young, and that we must come together and find peace. But the lesson is then interrupted by a deadly vision as the globe in the classroom lights up purple. We then he then turns back to all the classroom. A note on the classroom had more deaths than people from the Shi'ar Empire, but when he has the vision, all the deaths are filled of skeletons. And then we see a demonic Gambit, who then turns into a skeleton and shoots out the green rave that was sent by the Sentinel last week. And Charles's skin burns off. It burns into a skeleton himself. Charles basically comes back to it. He's overcome with grief. He starts saying, well, as soon as he sees Gambit turn into the skeleton, he says, "No, not my children! My children of the atom! They were drinking wine! They were making love!" I was like, wait, Charles, have you been spying on your children? Having sex? Have you been watching Rogue? Have you been watching Rogue and Magneto have sex? Charles, what the hell are you doing up there? The skeleton Gambit delivers the big blast, similar to the giant sentinel. Charles's telepathic link is broken, and he is awakened in great distress, and he vows to return to Earth. Leandra tells him that, not now, you're just about to convince them, and he says, we must not wait. He was like, I must return. We cannot continue with this star-crossed love affair. I must return to my children. And that's how we end that. So, Ness, what was your overall thoughts on the actual life death story of Storm and her regaining her powers at the end, and then seeing what happened in Genosha, and then what happened with Charles getting the vision in the classroom?
I'm going to start off with the ending to life death. Just like Wendy said, it was more so, again, the storytelling was great because it's the fact that she has to face her fears of, wanting to be human, didn't want to deal with all the grief of being a mutant anymore, getting what she wanted, but then it didn't turn out to be exactly what she wanted. So now she's like, I know my place in the world and in the universe, and it's with my family as an X-Men. The fact that she had to go into a tight space because she has claustrophobia is great, because it just goes off of her being a human. It really doesn't have anything to do with being a mutant, having superpowers or not. It's just like, again, at the end of the day, regular people have these or you can be a mutant and have these amazing powers, but that doesn't stop you from being scared of tight enclosed spaces. So for her to even just to face that at first, then going in the tight space, dealing with the adversary, and then now she's just like, you know what, this shit can't overtake me. Like, I'm more powerful than a demon spirit. I'm more powerful than enclosed spaces. Like, I'm one of the strongest mutants, omega level mutants of ever in the world. So I love the fact that when she finally got to a place and said, hey, I'm like, this is me, I am who I am, and her power started coming back. And then, she goes from the mohawk to the long silky weave. It's like, oh, she's turned into a bad bitch again. Got her powers back. And then, like, they can see the explosion of her powers, or just the storm itself from outer space.
Yeah.
She's like all over the place, just like getting her powers back. It was a great thing to see, because Storm's like one of the most powerful mutants, and to see her go through these last couple episodes pretty much being helpless and really didn't know what to do and couldn't do anything. Forge is there, but then there was just some lessons and just some situations that she had to go through on her own. And then, like, now we're at the climax, and then she gets through all that, gets her powers back. So now I think that, towards the end of that story, when, Forge turns on the TV, I think she's going to go fucking Mach 10. Like, she's going to go ballistic over there in Genosha, or wherever the case may be. Wherever she ends up going next, I feel bad for whoever's there that's not on the side of the X-Men, because she's going to fucking go nuclear on whoever it is. Because she just had to deal with all that on her own. She's going to feel a way about that. And people like her, not even just the X-Men, just other mutants, were massacred. So there's not going to be any holding back. There's not going to be any understanding. And I think that's going to be another situation where it shows the emotions of the mutant seeing, showing that everybody has these emotions and we all deal with these type of things. But when they find out it was a fucking setup, in my opinion, which I think is a setup, there's not going to be any remorse. I don't think they're going to let anybody off. There's going to be a lot of ass kicking coming from the X-Men's camps, and it's going to be deserving. And I think she's going to be at the forefront along with the X-Men, dishing out that lesson that they shouldn't have been fucked with. Now the Xavier part, I don't know if there's any anime fans in the chat as of right now that are watching us. So I'm going to let you guys know about a show that I watch. It's called Jujutsu Kaisen. On this show, or it's a manga, which is like a Japanese comic book, and it's an anime as well. On this show, there's this thing called a power or a technique called a domain expansion. That's basically what Charles did. You go into a domain expansion. This is just your area of power. The people in it, they literally have to be stronger than you mentally and physically for them to beat you or to break out of your domain. It's easier to break in than to get out. And which this shows an example of that when Deathbird goes up, she starts freaking out. He shuts her up by putting her apple in her mouth again. So it's just like you really have no power. And the only thing that really messed all that up was the vision that he got of Gambit and then the rest of the mutants being killed and things of that nature. So it really took his own power being flipped onto him for everybody else to be released from the astral plane. I don't know where they're going to go with this, because I feel like it did make Deathbird's her claims that much more valid. He took forever. He didn't purge his memories. He didn't side with the Shi'ar. He didn't renounce his allegiance to Earth or his X-Men. So now, and then coming back to reality, he's just like, I need to go. And, Leandra's like, no, like, you got to think this through. We were this close to having them on our side and getting them to where we wanted them to be. And he's just like, fuck all that. I need to get the fuck off this planet and get back to Earth. So I don't know if they're going to be like, you know what, Deathbird, you were right. Let's lock him up for treason. He's a traitor, things of that nature. Or I don't know where they're going to go with it, but I don't, at the moment, I don't think it's looking good for Charles. I hope, hopefully they come to some resolution where he can get to Earth and there is like nothing crazy that'll happen. But as of right now, and on top of that, the way he was talking to Leandra, at the end of the day, she's the Empress. You may be her man, but she's the one in power here. You can't just be talking to no royalty like that, And I think that might be a little bit something that might go into it as well. But I think she loves him so much that she's not gonna probably not gonna harp on it as much as the rest of the Shi'ar civilization will. And I'm hoping that it doesn't get to that point, but who knows? But yeah, I'm really looking forward to next week. I hope it's not a two-parter that this split of that. Like love death. That's over. That has to be over now. Storm got her powers back. It's time for her to reconnect with the rest of the X-Men. Every episode would be about one thing, so we could all.
I like how that both stories culminated with Storm and Xavier finding out about Genosha.
Yeah, I love that too. And it sucks that it's funny that actually it does suck, but it's funny that they find out in different ways. She's watching it on TV because she's on Earth. He just gets, and that's another thing that it. Do you think that I'm ask you guys this question? Do you think that all that happened with his vision while it was actually happening or after the fact?
So my big question that I was going to ask you after we get what Wendy thought about the ending of this part was, do y'all think the vision is the same vision that hit Madeline and Jean? Because we don't know who sent that vision to them, where they got hit at the same time and they saw what was going to happen. And then Cable shows up, tells to get rid of music, then he disappears, then they get hit with everything. Did Charles get hit with it at the same time? Like, is he experiencing it as it's going on?
Then that would make sense, because Cable, I feel like that, like, now that you mentioned it, Cable would be the one for that to happen. He's coming from the future. He's just like, oh, I got a little bit of time. Get out of here, save yourself. And then he disappears. And then, it's Madeline, Jean, the strongest psychics of the X-Men. So that actually does make a lot of sense. If they all got that at the same time. So then, yeah, it would be happening in real time for Charles. Oh man, I can't wait. I can't wait for next week. I can't wait.
Wendy, what did you think about everything that went down with the ending of Storm's story with getting her powers back and Charles getting his vision?
All right, so with Storm, you already know, I was happy that she overcome her fear, and I think it's something, like Ness said, I think it's something that she had to do on her own. Like she had to figure it out. Like she had to overcome it, and like she said, like she had to, she had this adversary just like tearing, like putting her down, telling her, like kind of throwing in the fear in her. And then the fact, she had to embrace it. Like, yeah, I wanted to be a human, but this is not really who I am. This is not who I really am. I am a mutant. I have powers. Like, this is me. And she had to overcome that. And I love that she overcome it. And the whole sequence to her new transformation was amazing. Once again, the visuals, like, yes, with the long hair and the new look, like, yes, girl. And then just show queen, show off. And just see, oh gosh, I was honestly, I feel like maybe like this is something that she really had to go through, like because the whole scene, like I think that's something she needed, her thinking like maybe like being a human not bad, maybe taking those powers away, let her reflect on it, like if this is what she really wanted. I think that's something that I wouldn't want to say should have happened, but maybe like, maybe it was supposed to happen so that she can realize like being a human, yeah, is great and all, but there's like, what else is there? What else is there in being human? So it's like, is it really all that great? And that's something that I feel like she needed to figure it out. She needed to figure out. So that whole scene was great. The whole going into Xavier, I'm gonna, I'll say like I feel like he was having that vision while it was happening, like while it was really happening, and seeing like how what was happening, like with Gambit, like that whole part with Gambit. Once again, like rest in peace, Gambit. Like I hope this ain't the last of you. I hope this ain't the last of you. I hope you revive or somebody bring him back to life. I don't know, because he's my favorite. I like, it's so sad, and just him like saying like, all right, yeah, like I need to get back. I need to get back there. And going on to what Ness said, like, proving Desper's point, like, like he wasn't really gonna turn over to our our universe, our family. He wasn't gonna really do it. Like, he's all this talk, he was in action, and just seeing that. But it's like, come on, like he had to go back. He had to go back, and I don't think his girl's gonna like resent him for that. Like she's understanding. I can see like she loves him that much that she understands, like, and he'll probably throw in the question, like, if this were to happen to your group, your family, like, what would you do?
Yeah.
So I think it'll be very, like, I could see him being understanding to that. So I can't wait for the next episode. I want to know where, like, how they're gonna do this, how they're gonna top this episode out. Like, I'm very interested to see what's gonna happen.
Well, we're gonna get some follow-up from Genosha in this next episode. I just don't know what it's gonna be exactly, because we got this prologue to this episode where we saw Trask. He was running, someone was running after Trask, and he's running away, and it's revealed, he says that, oh, you used my DNA to access the master mold to attack Genosha, and it was none other than Mr. Sinister who was chasing Bolivar Trask. What the powerful villain has in store for the rest of the season remains to be seen, but he's given the techno virus to Cable, to Nathan Summers, and we had to send Nathan Summers away, and now he is a part of this attack on Genosha. But I don't think he's alone, because his whole thing is that he wants to start, a mutant race. So, wiping out most of the population of mutants is a good way to kind of start your own mutant race with what he was doing with Cable and Nathan Summers. But I think that Apocalypse is involved in this, because this is now 2 weeks in a row in the opening sequence. We've saw clips of Cable fighting Apocalypse. So I think there's a reason why. Also in this week's opening, we saw Nimrod. Nimrod is like an advanced like mutant sentinel who can, like, if you destroy it, it can put itself back together. And Storm, it's a scene where from, I believe it's No Man's Worth, or One Man's Worth, where Storm, and they go to an alternate timeline where Storm and Wolverine are married, and they team up with Bishop to save Charles Xavier, and they have to shoot at Nimrod. So that was referenced in the opening sequence. We also see Nimrod coming out of Master Mole in it. So I think that Sinister is involved in this. I think Apocalypse is involved in this. And I think Bastion, because Bastion is a part of the whole Genosha bombing or Genosha attack in the comics. And there was kind of a familiar figure that looks like Bastion. And another reference to Bastion in Forge's house. There's a picture. You saw the big wall that has the pictures in Forge's house, and you see the one picture where he's like staring out into the distance like he's a freaking model and stuff. There's on the, like, go back to that episode. There's a picture right under that picture that has you see you see one of the doctors, and you see Forge, and then the third person is blanked out. That's Bastion. So I think that is blanked out for a reason, because Bastion is going to be revealed as being a part of this attack on Genosha.
Wow.
We got a lot to look forward to.
Got a lot to look forward to. Next week's episode, I don't know. I mean, we can kind of speculate here, but next week's episode is called Bright Eyes. So this is it's a reference to what Rogue called Cable back in the first episode that they ever met each other. Storm says, "Hey there, Bright Eyes," because he has the eyes and stuff like that. So I think that it is a Cable episode. So fingers crossed.
Yes.
It's Cable going back in time to avoid all of this. Let's all our fingers crossed. Do you think we get Cable? Do you think that Cable would be able to reverse what's going on? First, that's my first part of the question. My second part of the question is, do y'all think that Magneto is actually dead? Because I don't.
Nope.
I don't think Magneto is actually dead.
I don't think he's dead, but because of the way that Charles was flipping out when he found out that Magneto was creeping on Rogue. I didn't say creeping because he was still grooming her. I don't care. I'm gonna die on that hill. I feel like he's like, if you would have known that Magneto was dead, like maybe you would have had some compassion. But he was like, they were drinking and dancing and making love. So yeah, I don't think he's dead.
Well, he hadn't checked in a while, because I mean, they were making love way back when. Either he's talking about Rogue and Magneto, or he's talking about Jean or Madeline and Scott. Either one of those, he was a peeping Tom.
Yeah, that's come on, Charles.
What a pervert. Charles Xavier, pervert. Wendy, what do you think? Do you think that they'll be able to go back in time and solve all this? And do you think Magneto is actually dead?
So I don't think they'll be able to reverse it. I think Cable's probably gonna come back and like tell them, like maybe like the end result, to see if maybe they can change it, like themselves can change it before it gets to, I guess, what the future in Cable's realm is. Do I think Magneto is dead? Hell no. That man is not dead. Because if he was dead, they would have showed him in that scene dead, and they didn't show him at all. So that man is not dead. That man is alive somewhere.
I think so, but in the comics, there was a couple of times that Magneto did die, and he just came back as a bigger villain. So that's what I think is going to happen. I think
Yeah.
that we're gonna get Cable's going to be able to avoid it, as far as like Gambit reversing what Gambit, bringing Gambit back. But I think in the end, once they think that, oh, they avoided the Genosha thing, we avoided the mutant war, Magneto comes back and he remembers everything. Even though it didn't happen that way, he still is gonna come back and want to kill all the humans.
They come back as the villain, as the Magneto that he is, that everyone knows.
He comes back as the villain, and the only person who can defeat Magneto, of course, is Professor X.
Oh, I thought you was gonna say Rogue.
Well, obviously, her touch has no effect on him unless you you mean
putting it on him.
Anyway, I was gonna say effect being something comes out of him instead of Anyway, Wendy. Let's Wendy, Ness. Let's put our thumbs in the middle for this episode 6 of X-Men 97. Let us know in the chat. Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle. Out of 10, what you give the show? MVP and LVP. But for us, 3, 2, 1. All thumbs up across the board from all of us. Out of 10, Wendy, what did you give this episode?
Oh gosh. I want to get it 8.5.
8.5? Okay.
Yes.
Ness, what about you?
I give it an 8. I really like the Charles Xavier stuff. And then I like the part where Storm got her powers back. But eight solid. Like I really enjoyed the Xavier stuff just because of everything that was going on. We've seen again the new character or the other Marvel entities, and then just so much that was going on pertaining to that part of the story. So I really did enjoy this episode.
I enjoyed this episode as well, but I will give it a 7.5 out of 10. Like I said, if they had put the first 8 minutes of Lifedeath in this episode, I probably would grade it higher. Probably be around what Wendy gave it, a 8.5. But because of that, I got to deduct. So I give it a 7.5 overall for the show. Wendy, who was your MVP for this episode?
Oh, damn. Okay. MVP. Storm. I have to give it to my girl Storm. Like I love how it started. She overcame her fear. She defeated that negative voice in her, the adversary, and she had a whole new look. Like, and she's back to who she is, the baddest mutant that she is, Storm. Like, I gotta give it to her. MVP. I will say. Honorable mentions would say Xavier and also Deffer because she's funny. Like I noticed, like she's funny. That comment, come on, highlight. Milky Way Ghetto was hilarious.
Milky Way Ghetto.
Like that's a highlight.
I think that it's obviously Storm for me. Storm gets the MVP for me. What about you, Ness?
Yeah, we're going to make it across the board. I'm going to go with Storm with a honorable mention to Xavier. Only reason he gets honorable mention is because he was just so close to, getting his point across with the astral plane. But then, the vision came and it just messed everything up. But yeah, Storm set out to do exactly what she was seeking to do. Got it done, got her powers back. She's back to being that bad bitch that we all know that she is. So congrats to Storm.
Congrats to Storm indeed. LVP for this episode. I kind of want to give it to Charles for being a peeping Tom and being all horny all the time. But I will give it to the Shihar Nation, the Shihar Empire, because they some racist freaking colonialists. They just freaking took over everything and just killed all the Indians and all the black people and just, hey, we're taking over. It's the Shi'ar way. Fuck them. Shi'ar LVP. Ness?
So I was going to go as far as saying the whole civilization, but I'm just gonna give it to Deathbird for the fact that she was like that Milky Way ghetto. We're never gonna get away from that. That's gonna be one, if not the most talked about comments in this series for quite some time. On top of that, being fucking racist, she just reminded everybody of the South losing in the Civil War because she didn't win anything. She tried to fight for the throne, lost, potentially getting locked up, got knocked out by Gladiator.
Yes.
Like you just catching L after L after L. So yeah, gotta go to Deathbird.
We got Power Driver Finisher. He says they don't give a damn about gentrification. We better than you, period.
Yeah, that's basically what she said.
Oh, Wendy, who's your LVP?
Oh man, thinking LVP. As much as I gave her honorable mentions, but only because of that comment, because I was highlight. I'll definitely give it to Deathbird. Like, girl, you talk all this stuff and how there shouldn't be your sister shouldn't marry Charles. Hold on, sorry.
But he's powerful enough to put an apple in your mouth,
right? No, but you have you talk
he
about
had
how
you gagging more than Leandra.
yeah. Oh my god. Oh gosh. Okay. So even though just for that comment, that's the highlight, whatever. But I give, she talked this stuff, talking about how he's not good enough for her sister, this and that. But then you kept getting your ass beat, like Ness said, you kept getting your ass beat by Gladiator, left and right. I'm like, girl, and you're very impatient. Like you couldn't even wait, just a minute. Like, come on, automatically, oh, he waited, he hesitated, boom. He doesn't want to be. He's not joining us. I was right all along, girl.
Kill him. He had the
you need to chill out. Be patient. Patient is always key. So yeah, even though that comment was a MVP, you on the other hand, LVP.
That is fair in my book. But that brings us to a close on another episode of X-Men 97. We will, of course, be back next week to review Bright Eyes and see what Cable will do to try to reverse things. But until then, Wendy, let everybody know where they can follow you and when they'll see you again.
Okay, so you guys can follow me on Instagram at EvaElise2anyone. So next week I will be at my sister's house in PA. I'm gonna try to come in. I'm gonna see. Let's see what happens when I'm over there. I might try to join in. Let's see what happens. But yeah, you could catch me there. And before anything, I just want to say something in regards to last week's episode. Since I didn't get a chance to put in my rant with my rogue rant. Rogue rant from last week. Okay, first of all, can I just say, Rogue, you was a trifling person. How dare you? This man, is willing to do anything to be with you. And you just go and get with freaking Magneto. And then, mind you, Gambit being handsome in his white suit, and he was ready to propose and everything and devote his love to it. And then you just no, this is not what I want. And then you go to Magneto and then you kiss him. Excuse you. First of all, Gambit, you don't deserve Gambit. You don't deserve him. Gambit, you need to find somebody else. And it sucks that at the end she finally realized, after kiss Magneto, oh no, this is really not what I want. And she wants to go back to Gambit. Girl, make up your mind. Seriously, Gambit, you realize what you had along, is basically what they say. What you're missing is what you had all along. Whatever that saying is. I don't know what it's called. But yeah. Now all of a sudden you want to go back to Gambit and then he died? How dare you?
She out here thotting and bopping.
Yes, stop being a freaking thought. And who's the next person you gonna fall for? Who's the next person? Let's see who's next. Because you don't deserve nobody. Sorry. Okay, that's my rogue rant for last week. I'm good. Go ahead. Carry on.
Great. There you go. Tyrone says Gambit should have snatched up prior.
Should have.
I mean, she was looking to get them gambit dick. But yeah, Ness.
Should have. Better than
Ness.
Rogue. Better than Rogue. Should have got with prior.
Oh man, you guys can follow me on Instagram and Twitter, skinny__Kravitz. I will definitely be on next week and probably try to pop up on our watch alongs on our sister channel, a True Hill Heat YouTube channel, more than likely for Wednesday night on Dynamite.
Yes, and join us live over there on the True Hill Heat Wrestling YouTube channel. We'll be live at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for our AEW Dynasty watch party tonight, watching AEW Dynasty, so go over and check that out. But we got plenty of great content for you to check out here, like our True Heel Heat Check, number 12, with our 2024 NBA playoff preview, giving our predictions for all the first round series, as well as who we think is going to win each conference and the NBA Finals. So go over and check that out with me and Chris G. If you haven't already, check out myself, Ness, and Josh with episode 4 and 5 review of X-Men 97 as well. You can check out the True Hill Heat flagship podcast from yesterday with myself and Josh and Chrissy Love, talking about everything from this week in professional wrestling. We got an AEW Dynasty preview up there, and we got a brand new interview with Mustafa Ali, the TNA X Division champion, that you could check out as well. Like we said before, we'll be back next week with another review. So for Prince, for Wendy.
Birthday!
Oh, it's
Today's his birthday!
Prince's birthday! Happy birthday, Prince!
Happy birthday, Prince.
Yay! He's 12 years old. Today's his birthday.
Oh, happy birthday to you.
Yay!
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Prince.
Yay!
Happy birthday to you.
Yay! Happy birthday, Prince! Woo!
Woo!
He'll be
That's
on
how
the
you
watch
sign
along tonight. Yay!
Hey! Drop a thumbs up on the video. We'll see y'all next week. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. For Prince, for Wendy, for Ness, it is me, your True Hill Phenom, SP3. This has been our X-Men 97, episode 6 review. We are signing off until next time.